Maybe turn it down. It's really low. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's council meeting of the City of Onkaparinga on the 12th of November. And we've got a bit of feedback going here, but I think we're under control now. Welcome, everyone. Just the apology for lateness from Councillor Bell. She is on her way in. So just to note that there's no leave of absence, and everyone who's a councillor would like to stand. You're very welcome others to join us in our pledge. We recognise the city's considerable natural and cultural heritage, including thousands of years of traditional ownership by Ghana and the more recent contribution from people either born here or who have migrated here. As we meet together, we build on this heritage by respecting and listening to each other, thinking clearly, being receptive to new ideas, speaking honestly, and deciding wisely for the current and future well-being of those we serve. Thanks, everyone. And it's lovely to see people in the gallery this evening. You're most welcome. And just to remind you that we do have meeting procedures, and we don't take lightly heckling and things like that. So I will ask people to move if they leave the chamber, if they feel disposed to do those sorts of things. And this meeting is recorded. And as a consequence of that, if you are in sight of sound or visual capture, you will be captured. So just keep that in mind. But we're very pleased to see community members here with us this evening. And do I have someone to move the minutes, please? Oh, what's going on here?
It's in the wrong.
There's some fun things going on here. Councillor THEMELIOTIS.
This is the Mayor's.
Councillor Platten, I think, sorry, things are...
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Any debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Sorry about that. There's a few little techie things happening up here, but I think we've sorted it out. There's no adjourned business, and there is no leave of absence. So our next item is the Mayor's report. A couple of things I just want to draw people's attention to. There's an item on November the 8th on page 13 that I met with the member for VALE. That is in fact this week. There's just an error there. And I also want to draw elected members' attention to the appointment of Julia Grant, our Director of Community, to the state body of the Environment Protection Authority Board, and we really congratulate her for that, and we're thrilled that you'll be able to bring the concerns of our community to that forum. So I want those two things added to the agenda, to my report. Any questions? I'll put the motion, or the Marion? Sorry, Councillor THEMELIOTIS, you're moving it?
Mayor's report, you're happy to move. I just want to ask a quick question.
Yes.
Around the CWMS petition, I understand that there's a letter going out to residents. Can a template or copy of that please be circulated to elected members?
Sure, yes, no problem at all. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stafford?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. Thank you, everyone. Now we come to a very special moment of the evening, and I would like to pay our congratulations, I think that's what it should be, after 10 years of service, to Councillor THEMELIOTIS. So Councillor THEMELIOTIS has represented the ward of Thalassa and the City of Onkaparinga now since 2014. And I just want to read out some of the things that she has done over that period of time, but it's in the public record, shall we say. So she was elected to office in 2014. She was Deputy Mayor in 2016. And she served on the past council committee. She served on the Strategic Directions Committee from February 2015 to December 23, and she was chairperson in December 20 for the year December 22 to December 23. She was on the Community Relations Committee in 2015, the Civic Awards Committee from 2016 to 2018. She was on a very fun one, I hope, the 2018 Commonwealth Games Queen's Baton Rally, which was in April 2017, the CEO Performance Committee from February 2019 to April 22, and the ICT Reform Project Committee from 2019 May through to March 2020. She's got a very extensive community liaison role and proxy to many community groups, including Aberfoyle Park High, Christie's Beach Bowling Club, Clarendon Bowling Club, Clarendon Community Association, Community Centre Coromandel, the Coromandel Valley Ramblers Cricket Club, the Flagstaff Community Centre Incorporated, Friends of Onkaparinga Park, the Happy Valley Sports Park Inc., Renton Farm Animal Rescue Centre, the Onkaparinga City Concert Band, the Onkaparinga Clubs Forum, Renella Neighbourhood Centre, the Rotary Club of Flagstaff Hill, the Southern Districts Baseball Club and Woodcroft Primary School. So that's in alphabetical order and quite a list of fantastic community liaison. I'm hoping that you will all join me with at least a round of applause as we present these awards to. To invite Councillor FORBES just to say a few words as well.
Elected members, never in my wildest dreams would have I thought that an immigrant from the UK who went to Flagstaff Primary School and Aberfoyle Park High School would have an opportunity to represent her ward of over 20,000 residents, let alone a whole city of over 180,000 residents. It's not lost on me that the only reason why I get to stand here every week is because of my residents in Thalassa who have supported me for such a long period of time. And not only the residents, but my sporting clubs, community groups, service groups and associations. Thank you to my residents in Thalassa. I'd also like to thank council staff, past and present, I've had an opportunity to work with, elected members, past and present, mayors, past and present, and CEOs, past, present, and the one that lasted 15 minutes. Thalassa, it's an honour and a privilege to work with you and work for you. Together, we've achieved so much in the last 10 years. And I look forward to continuing to work with you over the next possible 10 years to achieve great outcomes for our community and our city. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor FORBES. And yes, 10 years is something worth celebrating. So I'm really glad that you're continuing in that role and provide a lot of support to others who are fairly new to this work. We'll now move into deputations. This evening we have two deputations. Our first deputation is from Richard Forbes, and if I could ask him to make his way up to the front. And as he's making his way up, Richard is representing the Port Willunga Heritage Committee, and he's got a particular interest tonight in sharing with us information about the promotion of the 175th anniversary of Port Willunga. Richard has been working with a number of elected members, and he did make a special request of people who are living in Willunga, who are the people who live in Willunga. If you want to just wave your hands around if you live in Willunga, and then if you are elected to represent Willunga, who represents Willunga, just so that Mr. Forbes was really hoping he could see your faces as well, because that's relevant to what he wants to talk about in his deputation. And you have 8 minutes. We will sound the chime a couple of minutes before you're due to finish, and your time starts now.
Thank you, Maura, and thank you, councillors. Yeah, this is a really important day for the Heritage Committee. The first thing I should say, and I think this is important, I'm not here to ask for money. I am here to ask for in-kind support, and I think that's important. We're seeking acknowledgement to a port that really hasn't been acknowledged in the past. And I should start by saying that the first 9 jetties in mainland South Australia were actually built on the Fleurieu. And the first jetty at Port Willunga was the second jetty, the first being at Port Elliot. So we're seeking acknowledgement for the council about this historic site and its cultural significance, and the support of the council for the 175th anniversary. So we've since joined the Willunga branch of the National Trust of South Australia, and I spoke to the chair, Brian McMillan, recently. He was kind enough to give us this quote, and I think if any town or area should know about historical significance, it's probably the Willunga branch of the National Trust. He goes on to say that Port Willunga and the role it played in supporting the growth, prosperity of towns, communities and businesses across the region, and that they believe due recognition of its historical significance should be given at this time by the city of Onkaparinga as it celebrates its 175th anniversary in 2025. So this is a little bit of a snapshot. I'm not talking about ports that were proclaimed by government. There is evidence that a ship came in called the John Perry in 1841 to collect 100,000 roofing slate tiles from Port Willunga, and then all through the 1840s that continued. As I said, it was the second jetty built on mainland South Australia, and it was actually named the Willunga Jetty. So from 1853 to the late 1860s, it was also the busiest regional port in South Australia. So it was taking produce, roofing slates, all sorts of different material from as far away as Yankalilla, Strathalbyn, the Meadows, MCLAREN, VALE and so on. So all over the Fleurieu region. There simply wasn't a jetty at that time. The second jetty was built in 1868, and that was called the ALDINGA Jetty because the Aldinga City Council took responsibility. So Willunga slate discovered in 1840, 2 flour mills built outside Aldinga at a place called White's Valley, for those who might know where that is, in 1844 and 1848, so very, very early flour mills. And wheat was farmed from the 1840s as well. So with all this activity going on from 1840 onwards, when slate was discovered and so on, the region's business people needed a quicker route to market than a horse and dray or a bullock and dray heading up a dusty track to Adelaide. And so the first meeting was held in Willunga at the Bush Inn. A whole group of businessmen from these areas got together and started lobbying the government. Before that, interestingly, all the produce before any jetties were in South Australia was carried through the Willunga main street and other areas by bullock and dray, and they went straight onto the beach at Port Willunga, backed into the sea. Lighters came in, a little bit of double handling, and those lighters went out to the tall-masted ships 200 metres offshore. So all of that was happening in the 10 or so years before the first jetty. Here's a bit of a little bit of a sample of the types of ships that visited Port Willunga during that time. You can imagine what sort of Vincent's Gulf was like. There were ships going up and down on a regular basis. We're writing a book on the history of Port Willunga. It's never been done before, and we've come into contact with people that have given us the most amazing photos and background, and we're still working on that. So the 175th anniversary, well, the founder of Port Willunga was actually a farmer and a hotelier, and he turned his homestead, if you can look at the photo on the right, called the Pier Hotel at that time in 1850, into a pub. And this is the only known photo of Thomas Martin and his family. And sailors used to come down the creek in their little dinghies, pick up a few beers, have a few drinks, and then head back to their ships. So that was the role he played. There were also a lot of grain stores as well. Oh, that's not what. So in terms of his buildings, the University of Flinders and University of Adelaide did some research into those buildings, the Pier Hotel, what's known Harbour Master's Cottage and Wells and so on, came to the conclusion it's amongst the oldest European buildings in the area and was the first European settlement there. And the ruins are still there. So I guess the first decision to be made, or what we'd like you to think about, is that we have a heritage site, never really been acknowledged in any way, shape or form. I think it's important to look at the benefits of creating an historic and cultural site like this, and that is I'm going to start talking about heritage tourism. Massive increase in Australia in heritage tourism. And if I look at the growing our heritage future in South Australia, the 10-year plan, 2030, we're looking at $1.58 billion spent on heritage tourism. That's an increase of $500 million in the next 5 years. So there are already some signs in Linear Park, but they're down the other end of Linear Park, which is on a no-through road. The area I'm talking about is the Port Wollonga North Coast Park, and you can see the two buildings on the right-hand corner there. So that's where they were situated, so close to the beach. It's quite extraordinary, really, to have a pub and a farm homestead by the beach. So it fits in really, really well with the coastal park and the coastal trail. And this is where the ruins are. They're sitting under bush and scrub. And I've spoken to the Wollunga National Trust, and they said all the foundations are still there. So we're looking to put up signage like the one on the right that is an example of what we're thinking about that's in Mitcham. The original cottage is sitting there. It's fenced, but doesn't have a sign, so no one knows what it is and the role it played. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a number of signs. There's never been a sign down at the jetty end to talk about the role it played, or in the northern car park as well. This photo up there is one I took in Western Australia that had a very simple sign, jetty ruins in the background, talking about the role it played in shipping all the produce out, and that's all we're talking about. Similar to Wollunga, welcome to historic Wollunga. We think there should be township signs, historic Port Wollonga 1841, at the end of the Pine Trees Port Road and on the Esplanade. It is still a township. So the 175th anniversary is here. We're writing a book. We're including quite a bit on Indigenous background with the Kaurna people and also Ravengiri people who came up from Port Elliot on the south coast. There's evidence of that.
And I'm calling time, Richard.
Right.
But I know you're very up for taking questions. So I'm going to...
There anyway.
Yeah, I know. So first question is from Councillor YEOMANS.
Thank you, Richard, for the presentation and taking the time to come down and talk to us and give us such an interesting insight into that Port Wollonga area. Just a couple of questions, if I suppose, just to reinforce.
So YEOMANS, can you speak closer into the microphone, please? Thank you.
Is it working?
Yep.
Yeah. Just a couple of questions, if I can, just I suppose just to reinforce what you're looking for here. So we've got a decision to make a bit later on this evening. So what is it you specifically like the council to the support for the council?
I guess it is that in-kind support, Paul. There is some money in the budget for the northern car park for a sign, and I think there may be money in the budget in that North Coast coastal walk area, because people will be going straight past those two ruins. Other than that, we're obviously looking for the sign. We're looking to clear the bushes, put the fence up around the original homestead. These signs here, and I think it's important to add that we are quite willing and able to raise the money to make the signs that are unbudgeted. We just need some in-kind support, because council obviously will need a say in the look and feel of the signs and fabrication process and so on.
Yeah, that's right. I was just see, it wasn't working. Yeah. That was one of those questions I was going to ask. I understand from previous discussions you've had some discussions with staff, particularly in relation to the signage around that coastal walk.
I did earlier this year, yes, I spoke to Salvador and Nathan, and they were the ones that said we should be able to do 2 or 3 of the signs.
Yeah.
The others are unbudgeted. So the actual month for the 175th anniversary is in September of 2025. So we're hoping to have all of this up and running. I'm hoping to complete the book by then as well. So that's our timeline. That's our deadline.
And there's other community groups that have a keen interest on Port Wollonga. Have you had discussions with those groups as well?
Yes, we met with friends of Port Wollonga at the very beginning, and they said because They are more involved in environmental works and heritage work, so independent, but I've got an email basically saying we support your aims and objectives. And we've met with the Willunga branch of the National Trust of South Australia. They were really, really impressed with the research, given the quotes about the historical significance. And as I said, you know, there is a real return on investment, I think, with heritage visitation and tourism nowadays.
Yep, no worries. Thanks very much.
Are there any other questions? They don't appear to be, but thank you very much, Richard. You're very welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
My pleasure.
The next deputation this evening is from Brenton Matters. So Brenton, if you'd like to come up. Brenton's from Motorcycling SA, the SELLICKS Beach Historic Motorcycle Races. And he's here to talk about the Motorcycle Classic for 2025. And just to remind you, Brenton, that I know you've done deputations in the chamber before, that 8 minutes and you'll get a ding at the 6 minute mark, and the time's all yours. Off you go.
Oh, thank you, Matt. Thank you, elected members. I haven't got a presentation. You have all the reports from council and many photos and public feedback, etc. I really just want to talk about the last 4 events that we've had from 17, 19, 21 and 23, and the development of our business plan, risk management plan, etc., and the way we have shown that we run the event and the continual improvement that we do of the event through really feedback and debrief meetings that we have with all of the stakeholders, I suppose, in the event. The event itself is well supported by the public. We bring in quite a reasonable amount of money, about a bit over $4 million is our estimate, with accommodation, with on travel. So people that come to the event and stay for a while and do the touristy thing. We promote the event around Australia at many different motorcycle shows, antique shows such as Bulli in New South Wales, Newstead, everywhere we can, basically. And being a passionate motorcyclist, I like going to these shows, so I might as well make my time useful at them. We get a lot of feedback from people that have been, and the people that have been here on holidays, what they tell us is that happy wife, happy life. They have an opportunity to bring their wife. They go off to the races for a day or two, and their wife tours around with other friends, etc., visiting markets and wineries and eateries and all the great stuff that is in the Fleurieu Peninsula to see. It's actually a really good selling point for us for the event to get spectators in from around Australia. We have people coming in from New Zealand for this next event, hopefully, because they've heard about it. They want to have a look at the area. There's 5 of them coming in. Yeah, they just want to have a look at the area and experience the races. They're actually here for 2 weeks. So all of this on income that comes into the area created by the event is good. It's solid for the event. It's solid for the community. The event itself focuses really strongly on local participation. So all of our vendors are local vendors. We don't use external vendors unless there's some particular thing that we can't get that we need, but to date that hasn't been so. The Surf Lifesaving Club, certainly it's their major fundraiser every 2 years, ranging between $17,000 and $20,000 an event that they make on that. So they consider it a really important part of what they do. Because of course anything they can get that they don't have to come to council for out of their members is certainly gives them a hand along. The focus on this next event really is about just lessening our impact in the bump in and bump out days on the local community. So more signage, more control of traffic, people at station points to be able to direct people rather than, you know, what we found with people who were driving in, weren't quite sure where to go, weren't quite sure how to make it to where they wanted to be. So making sure that we have people available there to actually direct them, answer questions and be able to guide them while we're doing that, keep them safe, basically. To date, we've had no injuries on the beach, no injuries to anybody, and we're really quite proud of that from a safety point of view, because we have around 40 volunteers and 6 contractors that we pay to help us put this all together, and to do that now for 4 years in an arena with a lot of volunteers that aren't necessarily trained in the tasks that they do. We think that's a pretty good record for where we are. So in essence, thank you for hearing what I have to say. Hopefully the reports that you've been given satisfy your needs, and you can see that what I'm saying is correct, and your vote for us to have the event again would be fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brenton. Are you happy to take questions? Councillor YEOMANS.
Yeah, just one if I can. Thanks, Brenton, for coming in. I hope you have hold a successful event if the licence is approved later on this evening in the report. I understand that the last event you held, there were some issues there with the Life Saving Club with the restaurant, the Silver Sands Beach Club. Yeah. Understand reading the report too, there's been some discussions between the event organisers and council staff and the business operators as well.
Yep.
And they've come to some conclusions and some outcomes that are clearly outlined in the report.
Yep.
Is it fair to say that you're confident that all of those outcomes will be able to get implemented and things will be a lot smoother for that business?
So I was in that meeting and took those undertakings on behalf of the organising committee. So most of what was committed in that is already in place. So basically, walkway behind the pits and being able to give them a clear path without being, which is better for us, so it's safer. A clear path along the between the pit fences and the thermopline posts on the eastern side of the pits. They'll be directed there. There'll be a person there directly. So there'll be a walkway down there and to the cafe. So that's already in place. It's already in the drawings and plans for what the pits are. The signage has already been planned. We haven't done it yet. We need to get the licence first, so spend money, of course. So all that pretty much is in place. So I'm quite confident that that will work. I've had meetings with our security that run their security as a volunteer, so the oversight of that. So yeah, I don't doubt that what we've put on paper is what will happen, and I have no doubt that will certainly make it a better experience.
Right, sounds like it was a very productive discussion. So thanks for sorting that out. Thank you.
Sorry about those chimes doing their own thing then. Councillor Platten.
Very much, Brenton, for your presentation. The public consultation was broadly supportive of the licence being granted. Of the ones that were not supportive, basically they were concerned about the environmental issues.
Yep.
Can you speak to what controls you've put in place and what you've changed about the event as you progress forward to try and allay people's concerns with the environment there?
So from the first event, so we did a lot on the first event for the environmental concerns. So over 6 kilometres of temporary fencing. Excuse me. I'm pretty much what we do with the environment is keeping people out of it. So protecting it is about fencing it. And that's why we go to such an extent with the amount of fencing through the esplanade, down in front of the pebble bank. Then, of course, that we have the spectator fence, which limits the spectators, and then a race fence. I think the critical part of our environmental protection is that our competitors and our spectators understand what we're trying to achieve. They understand that we need to not have an impact, and that's what we really try to do, is not have an impact on anything apart from the beach that has the tide go across it. So, you know, when you see the big 20-some bloke with weapons and stuff on, like a real motorcycle, Harley type guy running across a beach trying to catch a little plastic wrapper from a lolly that a kid dropped because he doesn't want it to go to sand dunes because he wants the event to happen. That certainly encourages us that we're putting the right message across to everybody that's involved that comes down. Our biggest, and I hate to say this, but our biggest issue environmentally are locals. So we put up fencing and we have security on the esplanade, we have security on the pebble banks, not just paid security, but also volunteer security. We're all radio connected, and you would be amazed at the amount of locals that we have coming trying to jump fences, under fences, trying to get through sand dunes. They're predominantly all stop. And it's not about stopping them because they get in free. I'd rather let them in free. But for some reason, they think that like it's commando raid or something. I don't know. It amazes me what some of them do to do. But that's our biggest problem. But we manage that, I think, pretty well. We try to educate the people on why we're doing what we're doing, why they can't go running across the sand dunes. And, most of them have a laugh and say, we just thought we'd try it. But, that's where we're at. That's communities. What do you do?
Thank you for your frankness. Councillor Fisher.
Once again, thanks, Brent, for your presentation as well. I had the luxury with a couple of other councillors to be at your last event. I've got a question coming, but just the overall organisation of the event impressed the hell out of me, and what you had in place for the environment. Can you just give us a bit of history and perhaps talk about where the participants come from who compete?
Sorry, where
the history, the
history of the event.
The history of the event and the competitors that come.
Yeah. So the history of the event, of course, it started in the early 1920s. Through the 20s, on the southern end of the beach on the ramp there were a number of clubhouses and motorcycle clubs and so forth. I've actually done was invited to the library, Onkaparinga Library, and we did a 4-hour presentation on the history and so forth, and had a bunch of local residents here, which was really good. So it ran in that, and people came from everywhere to participate in those races. It finished in about 57, and then there were a couple of what we call demonstration events in 86 and 92. They were our biggest thing to overcome, with the influx of spectators, 30-odd thousand spectators that just trampled everything. And so we didn't want that. That's why we have the limits that we do on spectators. Starting in 17, with the event, what we found, and it's quite amazing, is there's a lot of families and a lot of local families that have a connection to the SELLICKS beach races. So grandfathers, fathers that have raced back when. It's amazing the 80-year-olds and 90-year-olds that we have that either race or have their son racing or their grandson racing or granddaughters racing. So we have a number of women that race in this event as well. And each event, we get more of these people coming out of the woodwork that actually participate in the event because grandfather they've been searching for his old bike, they might have found his bike, or they found one that is similar to it. They've put money together to get it up and going and running, and on they come. We have one family that have 27 of their family members come to the event each year. But that's not just one family. We have multiple families that have everybody from granddad, grandma, and right down to the newborn baby, great-grandchild that come to this event. It's a real community picnic event, and that's what we try to make it, and that's what we will maintain. We don't want to make it a corporate thing. We don't want to make it bigger than Ben-Hur. We don't want to develop it into something that's not controllable and not at the grassroots of what we need it to be, want it to be, which is truly a community event.
Any further questions? I'll leave it at that then. Thank you very much, Brenton. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Feel free to stay. We're moving now into the presentations of committee chairpersons and reports to council. Our first is the the Chief Executive Officer Performance Management Committee minutes. Do I have a mover? Councillor Eaton. Thank you very much. Councillor Fisher, seconding?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you. The next is 8.2, the Southern Region Waste Resource Authority, and I think Councillor Pritchard. Did you want to say a few words?
Happy to move. Just wanted to point out in your also just the last point is around the LEDS grant money, which was heavily undersubscribed, and it's a grant for schools in the local community that can apply to SWA for anything really to do with waste education. So as a board and a company, we're looking at ways that we can try and get that message out further to the local schools to work out how we can actually get that money spent.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bell.
Yes, I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions? A debate? Councillor Pritchard, do you wish to close debate? All those in favour? All those against? The motion's carried. Thank you. And please pass our thanks on to the other board members as well. Councillor Pritchard, we really appreciate all the work that's going on at Swarrow. We're now moving into section 9. So those of you who might be following online or have a digital copy from page 37. And our first item 9.1 is the Council Assessment Panel Annual Report. And we have the presiding member, an independent member, consent to join us this evening. And if you'd like to say a few words, but I will just see if we can get the report, someone to move the report so that we can. Councillor Greaves.
Thank you. Yes, happy to move the report.
Thank you. And Councillor Eaton. Thank you very much. And if you'd like to speak, right, you're very welcome before we approve it.
Right. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and elected members, and thank you for the opportunity to present the Council Assessment Panel's annual report for the last financial year. My name is Matt Atkinson. I was over the position of presiding member of the CAP in January this year, following on from Nathan Cunningham. Now that I'm here in person, I would like to thank you for entrusting me with the opportunity to lead the CAP for the next term. I'm certainly honoured and excited to do so. I've detailed my qualifications and experience in presiding members report as part of the annual report. I'll make more of those details now. I have provided over 11 CAP meetings since being appointed, 7 of those meetings within the reporting period. The first 7 or 8 meetings were Nathan was still the presiding member. What I'm trying to do with the panel is bring a less formal approach to the council committee. We understand that when you do have formal meetings such as council, it can be quite intimidating for people when they come forward. So we generally try and use first name basis with panel members and staff, and also with representatives and applicants with their permission. Council's well served by an experienced and motivated panel. Members have experience and qualifications in town planning, urban design, architecture, native vegetation, heritage, First Nations, transport planning, regional planning, and we have local and state government representation as well. I'd like to thank my colleagues on the CAP, Councillor Heidi Greaves, Sarah Rachel, Ross Baytop and Ben Schnell, and our deputy members, Stephanie Johnson and Councillor Jeff Eaton. And Councillor Eaton, we haven't had the pleasure of being able to serve together as yet, but I look forward to the opportunity. I do note that you'll be selecting the council member representatives to the panel for the next term on this evening's agenda. And whilst it's not a statutory requirement for a council member to sit on a panel, it is my experience that a council member adds a lot of value to the discussion and assessment of applications due to the experience within their community and their understanding of council processes. I certainly value the input of Councillor Greaves during this term of the CAP and acknowledge her ability to separate her planning function from her role as an elected member, which is sometimes quite difficult to do. Just final thank you is I'd like to thank and acknowledge Renee Mitchell, Matthew Lawrence and their staff for the outstanding support that they provide to the panel, and to the previous assessment manager, Rebecca Rutschak, for her support. Really quickly, I won't take much time. I just wanted to give you a general overview of some of the applications that we looked at in the last term. There's a full list within the report, but there's probably the most contentious ones that we received were for tourist accommodation, function centres, retail fuel outlets and childcare centres. And I think across the board, not just in this council area, these types of applications are quite polarising for communities. Some really quick statistics. During the reporting period, we had 16 meetings. 8 meetings only had 1 item considered. The most items we had in the agenda was 4. And toward the end of the term, in consultation with council staff, we have changed the terms of reference to only have a meeting once a month rather than every 3 weeks, just to try and ensure that we're still meeting the statutory responsibility of council to determine applications within the timeframe, but try and reduce the number of 1 application meetings that we're having. We considered 23 development applications, 18 of those were approved, the other 5 were refused. There were 3 appeals to the Environment, Resource and Development Court, 2 of those were settled with amended plans via compromise. 1 is yet to be determined. And we also had 1 review of an assessment manager decision. That decision was to refuse an application, a land division application, and that decision was upheld by the CAP. Finally, the other function that the CAP can do, should they wish to, is to recommend policy changes to council for consideration. And I'll just note that during the last term, there were no recommendations from the CAP during that reporting period.
Thank you very much, Matt, and I really do appreciate your leadership and steady hand in this work, because it's sometimes can be a bit tricky. So we appreciate that. We'd like to acknowledge that. And I'm just going to check if there's any questions to the report. Anyone got any questions? No questions. Councillor Greaves, did you wish to close debate? I'll put the report. All those in favour? All those against? Motion is carried. Thanks for joining us this evening. All right, item 9.2, so this is page 47. And Councillor Bell.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to nominate Councillor Greaves.
So you're moving 1.1? Yes.
Has it been amended?
No, I'm just what you can see on the screen. So that Councillor Bell, Councillor Greaves.
Not me.
That's it. And are you offering a deputy?
Not at this stage, so I'm just moving one, but I suppose, but I'm happy to move 2 if someone would like to nominate as the deputy.
I'll just, Councillor Platten, were you wanting to? Councillor Greaves? Yes, I was just going to say, yes, thank you. I wasn't quite sure who was, do we have a second, was that the motion that's before we're just appointing someone, or do we have a seconder for this motion to appoint Councillor Greaves? Is there a seconder? So if there isn't, once there's a seconder, the Councillor Greaves probably needs to leave the room. Can you do that now, Councillor Greaves? Does she need to put the conflict of interest?
Yeah, she should probably.
Yeah, I think you probably need to do that now. To identify doing a general conflict of interest, yeah.
Terribly confusing. Thank you very much. Yes, before this item goes any further, I would like to declare a conflict of interest, as I have indicated that I would like to continue on as a council member to CAP, and it's a material conflict, so therefore I will be leaving the chamber.
Okay,
thank you.
So as a material, not general, I'm just checking what's written up here on the screen. Material, yes. And have you got your form to give them? Thank you very much. Okay, so do I have a seconder? Councillor Bell.
Yes, I just wanted to highlight that Councillor Fisher was happy to be the deputy.
I'll be the deputy, okay. Councillor Fisher. And now do I have a seconder? Councillor Davis.
I'm happy to second that.
Okay. And Councillor Fisher, you need to declare an interest. And I need to press the button. It doesn't want to go. Councillor Davis, would you mind turning off your... There we go. Now we're all...
May I declare a conflict of interest, a material nature, and I choose to leave the...
Thank you. And I'll get our team up here to give you the right form to fill in. I'll get through as we go past. Thank you. Councillor Davis, you seconded that motion? Yes. Councillor Platten.
Hello, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment if I can.
Yes.
And I have one pre-prepared. I have no issues with the people that have been nominated.
So they would read appoint Councillor Greaves and then appoint Councillor Fisher.
Council so deemed, that would be fine.
Yeah.
But what I am trying to achieve here is a review into whether council wants to have elected members as part of the CAP. I think administration is well placed to provide us a a position that we can then take forward. This chamber is predominantly new and comes with some new perspectives, and I think it would be remiss of us not to use this opportunity to review in 3 months. So what I'm asking is that the elected members, if they're granted approval tonight, are put on for a 3-month term, and at the expiry of that, we get a report and we can make some decisions around whether we want elected members as part of the CAP or not.
Yeah, I can I just ask a question of staff, a clarification question? Can I do that? So this is probably a question to you, the Director of Planning. Is 3 months about right, and would we need to make it 4 months so that there's time for any changes that might be necessary?
Through you, Mayor, 3 months would be sufficient. By my counting, that takes us to February. It's a relatively straightforward report.
Yep. Okay. I'm just checking with the amendment here. So just you're clarifying 3 months is okay. Hang on, everyone. I'm just checking something else. I'm just checking about the original motion is for 2 years and this is for a 3-month period. And I think this is in the spirit of us wanting to continue improvement, and it's not really getting in the way of what our intention is. So I'm going to rule this in order. Councillor Eaton.
Yes, certainly I will second it. I think it's very important that review is done. What I found in my term, it had a significant impact on my capacity to speak to residents in particular areas, because I find there's a strong conflict between my role as an elected member and the code of conduct as a member of the CAP. And certainly that created some big problems for me in 2 districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor YEOMANS.
Yes, so I like the idea of this amendment, and I certainly like the idea of a review. When I was reading the fact sheet, that's one of the attachments to this report, it did make me think about the importance of the role of the elected member versus the role of the CAP. And obviously, when you're on the CAP, you've got to take your EM hat off. That will cause me some grief. I can remember there was a DA for that wave pool, and one of the first questions that developers asked me was whether I was on the CAP. Now, the fact that I wasn't allowed me to go and meet some residents who had some concerns about that, but I would have had to have removed myself from that role. So I would certainly be looking forward to a review on whether, and I guess in essence, the pros and cons of having elected members on the CAP. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor THEMELIOTIS.
I'll debate. Go ahead. I don't have a problem with this motion at all. I guess what I do take exception of is what's happened over the past 12 months, where I feel that our CAP member has been on constant attack a little bit. Partly by me. I put a lot of questions on notice in around the CAP members and the role and responsibility of CAP members. And it's a tough role. Like, it's not an easy role for any elected member. And I wish I could tell community that the elected member role is the role of the community and the voice of the community, but that's not what the role allows for. What I do like about having an elected member on the CAP is when there is things that are deliberated in the CAP and decisions that are made, a resident is more than likely probably more attracted to calling an elected member over a random CAP member to get an understanding of what happened during that meeting and how those deliberations took place. So happy to have this going forward. I think it's time for a review and to look at how other people do things, how we can do things better. But I think all elected members need to be a little bit mindful of those people that we elect to those positions, that they've got a role to do, and they've been fulfilling that role and doing a really good job of it.
Thank you. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mayor. I didn't get a chance to debate or say anything on following my meeting, so I just wanted to ask a few questions first, if I may.
Go ahead.
Of the staff. I just wondered if the staff could please provide some background information prior to 2021 and since 2021 on the role of the CAP and elected members?
Sure. Through the Mayor, CAPs have been in play in South Australia since at least 2006 in a formal capacity. When they were first appointed, they were allowed to be up to 7 members of the panel, 3 of which could be elected members. That was then amended some years later so that you could have up to 5 members, 3 of which could be elected members. They tried to wind that back to no elected members, the state government. The local government community didn't agree with that proposal, so they wound it back to just 1 elected member to be on the CAP. So that's the current situation we're working with. The role of the elected member on the CAP is very clearly written in the planning legislation. They're not required to be a planning expert like the balance of the independent members on the panel, but they are to have significant local government experience, and they are to, when they are making decisions under the CAP, take off their Local Government Act hat and put on their Planning Development and Infrastructure Act hat. So it is a very clear delineation, which this council has and continues to perform very clearly and quite well, in my view, compared to some other councils.
Thank you for that. And I also want to say that I'm happy with the amendment, given I moved to the First Nation. However, I just wanted to point out that I think, it's important that we do have somebody on the committee as an elected member. I understand there's possibly only one other council that might not have an elected member. Is that right?
Through the chair, my understanding, yes, that's the City of Unley. That's been in play for quite some time, and my understanding is that the decision was made that the elected members that were on the panel weren't performing their function appropriately under the Development Act at the time. And so the decision was to remove the elected member from the panel, so to remove the politics from the development decision-making process.
Thank you. I just wanted to add also that obviously it's really important that we have someone.
Can I just invite the CEO just to add to that? So that's all right.
So
that's all right.
Yeah, through the Mayor, elected members, it's probably worthwhile. Renee's very articulately described the situation in South Australia. Across the eastern seaboard, certainly local governments and their role in planning matters has been removed. So in New South Wales and Victoria, the elected members don't play a role in that. So across the nation, there are varying, obviously, models of how that works, but certainly the trend is, as Renee's described, a removal of elected members in that decision-making process around development applications, generally speaking.
Another question?
No, just to continue my debate, if I may.
Okay, so we'll
only a couple of minutes.
Can't do it. Can I leave the meeting for Councillor Bird to continue her debate? All those in favour? Against? Yes, keep going.
Thank you, my colleagues. I just wanted to add a number of things just to highlight that I think it's an invaluable role that clearly Councillor Greaves does play. I have attended a meeting and I was struck by the attention to detail by all the independent members and Councillor Greaves in their analysis and in making the decisions that were often very difficult. That was obvious. And from time to time, we all have in our role positions or situations where we have a conflict of interest and we hold many different hats. And in my past work, I've often had, for example, someone else responsible for another area represent that community if I haven't been able to do that. So I suspect that might be something we could look to doing if, for example, one of us feels that or Councillor Greaves requires someone to represent her community, that one of us could assist in that way if required, for example. I think I'd like to just finish by saying that I think conflict of interests are good. I'm quoting actually from Richard Bingham, who was SA Ombudsman in 2011. And I quote, he says, conflicts of interest are good. They wouldn't exist if elected representatives weren't strongly connected to their communities. And this is something we've just got to expect that may happen from time to time. That's all.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkes, question or debate?
I have a question. Go ahead. Okay. So in the report that's proposed with this amendment, can I ask, will staff have the ability to be able to capture the restriction a CAP position has on an EM?
So that's to do with the code of conduct and what currently exists within the legislation. I think that's what you're asking. Are you able to answer that?
Yes, that would be part of the report. Absolutely.
Can you enlighten me on how that will be done?
Well, as Councillor Yeomans referred to, there is a fact sheet that was attached to one of these reports. There's a Minister's Code of Conduct in the legislation, which has been appended to one of these reports. There are terms of reference, there's the legislation, and there's all the guiding documents that are there to support the elected member in the CAP. So we can certainly provide that information.
So does the elected member have to register or let staff know, or anyone know if they have a conflict arise when they're out in the community?
They don't have to let us know, but they should be wary of any development proposals that they suspect are likely to come before the CAP, and they generally seek advice from the staff before seeking to engage with a member of the community on a matter.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Platten, do you wish to close debate? Oh, sorry. Hang on. Aren't we passing the amendment first?
They don't get to close them.
Only the, okay, got it. Always learning. So I'm moving the amendment. Put it to the vote, and the only person who can close the debate is Councillor Bell. So does Councillor Bell want to close?
No,
we will do the amendment first. I know. We're going to vote on the amendment, everyone. All those in favour? All those against? The motion's carried. Now we've got, what are we doing? That then makes. And Councillor Bell, would you like to close? No. So that motion is now the motion, and we're going to put the motion. The amendment is now the motion. Are we all clear about that? Especially me. All those
now amended.
The motion's now amended and now being put. All those in favour? All those against? Motion's now carried. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your patience with my need to get guidance through that little labyrinth of amendments. And if perhaps someone can invite the other two back, that would be very helpful. Okay, we're now moving into the Southern Region Waste Resource Authority Annual Report. Thank you, Councillors Greaves and Fisher. Just to let you know that we are going to, we have approved your appointment for the next few months, and we're going to, during that period, we'll do a review, and I will encourage the staff to also take note of the debate, which carried many of the questions and issues that you may like to also watch to help you with what might be ahead that we'll get early in the new year. So item 9.3, Councillor Pritchard.
Happy to move as written.
Thank you. And do you wish to speak to the motion?
A little bit, please.
Go ahead.
I'm trying very hard not to say briefly, but yeah. The SPIRE annual report produced a really good result for our council and other councils that make up SPIRE, a $2.566 million operating surplus, which was up from the $2.1 million surplus from the year before. The SPIRE annual report includes the results of the two joint ventures on the site, which is the SRC and the Smith. The SRC continues to operate well, and the Smith is improving. What else do I want to say? I guess probably one of the interesting points around the report is the post-closure liability and capital requirements. So, we're a landfill site. we need to, so SWARA needs to maintain a liability to cover those post-closure requirements in terms of rehabilitation and the capping on top. The estimates we have for that are quite old. We have had a strategic day since, I think that was last month, to start working on revising our post-closure obligations and what the future of the SWARA site looks like. And so hopefully these numbers will be uploaded to the next report, but they are looking good. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pritchard. Councillor Eaton.
I have a second of none, sir.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Pritchard, you wish to close. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? The motion's carried. And this is a terrific result this year. And thank you for your service, Councillor Pritchard, on our behalf as well. And wherever Kirk is as well, for his leadership over many years too. We are now up to the draft annual report, and Councillor Chu, did you wish to move the item?
I'd like to move this, and I have a couple of questions as well, please.
Yes, and go ahead. And I've also asked our CEO if he's willing to kind of introduce it if there's any particular things that you want to. Do you want to ask questions? I do now, or do you want to debate now?
I'd like to ask questions now, please.
Okay.
My first question was in relation to the document and the circulation. So there was no mention in the report around supporting community to translate a whole lot of information. So I wondered if there'd been considerations for infographics to really highlight the many wonderful things that have been achieved in the last 12 months.
Through the chair, no, we hadn't considered infographics for the annual report, but we could look into creating an easy read version. And we have also created an A3 snapshot, which I know is quite text heavy, but perhaps we could have a look at that and see what we could do there.
Yeah. My justification was around social media, and just quick grabs would be fabulous to share. And also I was a little bit interested and wondered to you, CEO, why there wasn't maybe a CEO report, and if there'd be consideration for a CEO report within the annual report.
Through the Mayor. Look, I think it's a good suggestion, Councillor Drew. I think previously we just haven't had CEO reports. That's probably the obvious answer. Certainly something we could look at in terms of highlighting it. And it is a really important document, and it obviously reflects a lot of work from our staff. So we'll take that on notice.
Thank you. I'd like to get into my debate, please.
Go ahead.
I'm extremely proud to be one piece in this huge engine, the City of Onkaparinga. So many actions have occurred to work towards better outcomes for each of our residents, whether it's through the One Tree Per Child initiative, the Collective Adaptation Plan, the beginning of the Urban Creek Recovery, Resilience and Recovery Project, over 650,000 library visits, the 51,003 news provided, 5 positive ageing and community centres. Many staff are recognised within their 12 months for their leadership and their work. It's great to see the organisation's performance against the indicators, so many exceeding the target. One that stood out to me, that there was double the number of visitations to council-run recreation centres and aquatic centres from 120,000 people predicted annually to over 250,000. Another indicator for us as to why investment is required at the Nollunga Aquatic Centre. It's also great to see the organisation meet the financial targets set, and the two that weren't are now the focus for us going forward. This report demonstrates the breadth, depth and commitment of staff and elected members and the work we're doing together for a connected community with a sustainable future.
Thank you. Councillor Eaton, are you seconding the motion?
I'm certainly seconding that. What it does display is what we're doing. But one thing I'd actually like to see included in annual reports, because we have these cynics that regularly have a go at council, and particularly our council. And I feel that we actually need to have right across all councils a table which shows all the demographics so comparisons can be made, from population down to staff numbers, to road network, budget, expenditure, income, all those sorts of things. And I'm actually going to work on something to take forward to this chamber very shortly, that a table is provided. I tried to do it earlier this year to show that what people were saying about Onkaparinga was inaccurate. But to try to get accurate data is impossible. So it's really something that the Local Government Association should be looking at, an agenda item. We might look at it next year, that the table is provided so people can do quick comparisons with councils, and it might get rid of a few of the myths that we hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wilkes, question or debate?
I'll be really quick. I actually had a question as well about the format and if it would change, because the community plan, I was going to ask if it was going to sort of align with that look, but Lauren's asked that one, so that's great to know. And I will say, I read through it, I was really proud. So what a busy year we've had. There were some great highlights, and then I was going to print it because I wanted to hold it and read it, but I thought I'd ask staff because I didn't want to waste all my ink. But yeah, great work, team. I just thought it was absolutely fabulous and a really good read.
Thank you. Councillor Bill.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I just wanted to congratulate staff and congratulate the elected members. I think we've done an incredible job getting this done. The key achievements are beautifully highlighted. I can pick those bits out and put it on my Facebook page and have that with me maybe in the back of my pocket to highlight now and again when I have a listening post or go to a meeting. I won't read them out, but there's a number of them there, obviously, including the 8 playgrounds and the Knox Park upgrade, the winter activation grants, the coastal adaptation plan, the Hecken South East local infrastructure upgrade, and a number of others there, which was the other one that really I like is the establishment of the 2 new community-led disaster resilience groups in Cherry Gardens and Clarendon. That's fantastic. So I'm really excited about this. It will certainly help us to share and showcase what we've done, what the council has achieved, and also the amazing work that our mayor does in advertising and all the radio work and all the social media she does as well. So well done, everyone.
Thank you. Councillor YEOMANS.
Just want to acknowledge a couple of good inclusions, if I can, and I've got a question. On page 166, we've got the level of borrowings there, and it does talk about the borrowings being $112 million, but it also continues with the commentary that does include some extra money that we've received in advance for some projects, and without that, the borrowings will be $136 million. So I think that's a very, very good inclusion, and it certainly provides a clear picture of the debt borrowings of the community. Page 168, on the lines of what Councillor Eaton was talking about before, I think it's a very good inclusion where you've got the table of comparison of representation quota with other similar sized councils. It clearly says there Onkaparinga, which one of the elected members represents over 10,000 ratepayers. The closest is Salisbury, which is 6,500. So I think that's a very good inclusion from our point of view. And it was also in relation to page 171, the elected member allowances, where there's now been noted that it's noted there that it's actually a gross allowance. We do pay tax on that, so I think that's a very good inclusion too. Just got one question on page 191, which it talks about the appointment dates of independent members of the ARC. I understand they may be changing, and if they have changed, should we amend this report, or is that for subsequent reporting?
Yes, so the timing of that is just to do with this being in this financial year for our annual report. Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor. In the report as well, I echo the comments of other councillors here present tonight. Can we somehow, in the feedback section to the community, give them a thank you? I mean, I know we've got the results of the surveys and things done like that, but have we actually thanked them somewhere in the narrative there and commentary?
Through the chair, in the annual report itself, a thank you to community. Perhaps we could include something along those lines. I think the mayor actually does sort of allude to that, so we could make it clearer in the mayor's report if that would work for you.
More than happy to do that, to amplify that. Councillor, no further questions. Councillor Drew, do you wish to close debate? And I'm going to ask the CEO if he'd like to say a few words as well, given this is his first annual report.
Thank you. Elected members and community members, on the one hand, when you read the report, the only report you have before you is a statutory obligation on the Local Government Act, which doesn't make it as sound exciting as the work actually is. We've got a wonderful workforce that services 10% of the state's population, over 180,000 people. And our staff come to work to do the best they can for their community, led by you in terms of these policies and strategies that you adopt at the start of the year through the budget process. And this is really an accountability document about reporting back on what we promised and how we delivered against that. In the report, you can see that there's quite a lot of information about all the wonderful projects, and a number of elected members have touched upon that already during their comments. So I won't labour those points, but there are quite a number of projects that we are very excited about. There's also a number of awards that we've won throughout the year, one for staff, and that's not why we do it to win awards, but it's great to be recognised in the industry for a number of awards during the course of the year. And we've also, this year, as Ines has highlighted, we've tried to provide a snapshot to sort of summarise those key elements for those who are time poor in our community. But certainly for those who are listening, I really encourage you to read our annual report. While it's a statutory document, we take a lot more pride in it. We want to use it as a communication mechanism to communicate to the community all the wonderful work that you lead us to do and our staff deliver for the community every day. Thank you.
Councillor Drew does decline the opportunity to close debate. So I'll put the report. All those in favour? All those against? Carried, noting that we'll just do those tiny little tweaks. Item 9.5, the City of Onkaparinga Building Fire Safe Committee Annual Report. Councillor Greaves. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to move that report.
Do you wish to speak, Councillor Pritchard?
I just have one question.
Go ahead.
Just around this number of 4 meetings held.
Yep.
And I just wanted to ask a question if we're going to be back to 6 meetings this current year. Overall.
Are you able to answer that, Matthew?
Thank you for your question. Certainly been rebuilding our building fire safety committee under the able leadership of the chair of the Australian Institute of Building Surveyors. We are doing so, and definitely will have more meetings next year. Our inspections have been increased already, and we're looking to increase the meetings as well.
You're seconding the motion? Thank you. Councillor YEOMANS, did you have a question?
Just one question, please. On page 196, talks about there's a total of 8 compliance letters were issued to building owners advising of defects and requiring upgrades to their premises. Just in generic terms, you able to give us an example of what these defects might have been, whether major or minor?
Through the Mayor, it does vary substantially from building to building. It can be things like exit signs not in place, or faulty fire, what's the word? Detectors, thank you, or the sprinkler systems, or fire hydrants that are out of date, etc. So effectively they walk through the building and look at the different components, look at the severity of the breaches. And I think in this the last 12 months, the severity was quite low, but unfortunately common. So there's a lot of small work to be done, which is why no notices were issued. It's more working with the owners to resolve the matters.
Any further questions? Councillor Grieve, just to close. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. Thank you. Thanks to the staff too for their work through the year for that. As we come into our bushfire preparation seasons, item 9.6. Councillor Bell.
Oh, that's me. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd like to move this and I'd like to speak briefly to it.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the staff, all those on the floor, if you like, or on the ground out there, in particular, that do all the incredible work to help get the community prepared for the fire season, which is expected to be an unseasonably hot summer this time around. Certainly out and about near my place, And when I drive towards Willunga and back again, and even towards Onkaparinga Hills, they're out and about already, the machinery cutting and slashing the grass, which is great to see. I know that the community really value that work, and I know that the council have been able to respond very quickly to assisting in cutting weeds, particularly olives in particular recently. And of course the work that's done is commendable on resilience with communities in the semi-rural and rural areas. I congratulate the staff on that. It's really important. Obviously the fire season started earlier this time round. From the 1st of November, I certainly did my burn off and checked all my water pumps with my husband only a couple of weeks ago. So I need some more walkie-talkies though. In the event of a fire, that comes very handy. So I would just like to add that this is an important, obviously, and a legislative requirement, obviously, that we have to put together. And thank you for the work that you've done.
Yes, and indeed our fire season's been brought forward. Councillor Eaton, is seconding the motion?
Yes, I am seconding. What it does is outline exactly what we're doing. Walking around Flagstaff, well, in the last 2 days, I've actually been dealing with 2 matters of fire risk in Flagstaff Hill that residents have raised with me. And what I'm seeing, and I'm looking through life with a different lens these days, there's a complete change I've noticed this year in respect to the grass on the side of Sturt Gorge. It dried out a lot quicker. That's what raised my questions a couple of weeks ago. So certainly what this does is demonstrate to our community that they're aware of what we're doing and how we're going about it. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pritchard, question or debate?
Question, please.
Go ahead.
Just the legal grant funding, which we'll be using for a lot of this work. I know it finishes in March 2025. Is there a proposal for us to get some extension to that funding or another round of that funding next year?
Mary?
Through the Mayor, there are various options that we're looking at for further funding. A lot of the work that we've done in the last 3 years has been preparing council land to be able to be managed easier by the machinery and plant that we do have. So cutting down some of the denser woody weeds so that we can mow grass in the same way as expanded those grounds. So there's a little bit less reason for it, but yeah, there's certainly options coming for further grants.
No further questions. Councillor Bell, just to close. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. And just to remind everyone that the season is starting on Friday. So be careful and get all your own properties and those in the communities around you ready. We have item 9.8 now. Do I have a mover? Councillor Platten.
Happy to move as written.
Do you wish to speak to that item?
No, thank you.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you. I'll second the motion. I'll just briefly acknowledge the residents that put forward the petition to start with and the work that the staff have done to acknowledge and address the issues that they have requested. There's some good photos highlighting the good work that's been done. And I'm assuming there'll be some continued liaising with the petitioners. If required, and I think this demonstrates to me, if anything, that when the community know what to do, and some of them do know what to do, particularly they learn from past experiences of advocacy and getting advice from all of us here. I think this demonstrates that they can do something if they're empowered. So well done.
Thank you. Any Councillor Fisher?
Thank you, Mayor. It's about this motion is consistent with the decisions that we've made previously. If something needs fixing because of the risk to the community, we act upon it, and I support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Platten, do you wish to close? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Thank you, everyone. Item 9.9, the dual pathway Perry's Bend. Councillor Wilkes. Are you moving the motion?
Can I start with a question?
Certainly can.
Not that and I'm sorry I didn't submit it. I should have. But you've already highlighted it in the report. I just wanted to tease it out a bit. So is there anything we can do about the safety? Because you said in the report that 21% of people are speeding on that road, and you've mentioned a speed review. So I just wanted to ask you and get more information on that, and feel free to give it to me on notice if it's out of line.
If we need to take that on notice, just let me know. You can go ahead.
Through the Mayor, we can commit to having a look at some additional traffic data. I think, it's probably timely that we get some more recent counts. What we were kind of alluding to in the report as well is that we've got obviously the Onkaparinga Heights development that's going to come up soon, and that's going to change some traffic patterns in the area. So it's probably good if we're going to go in and spend large amounts of capital, that we understand those traffic flows before we go in like too heavy-handed.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I will definitely move it, please.
Okay, and do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please. I would like to. Okay, so firstly, thank you, staff, for looking into this project yet again. I really appreciate the in-depth, consistent, and really, what's the word I'm looking for? Just precise report. How you highlighted how this was investigated in 2013, 2014. This project was scoped and estimated. And then in 2021, you talk about how it was identified in the trail, and in a trail. And then now I drafted the norm and asked it to be looked at. So I really appreciate you doing this report. I've constantly heard over and over again from residents about how important this linkage would be, but that comes further in my debate. I also love how you aligned in the report what the project would and how it aligns to our community vision 2024. That's on page 233, because I know that's really important for a lot of people in the chamber, is to see that alignment between the community vision and what we're bringing to the chamber. Okay, so it leads me into my first main point. This pathway would just improve the safety of the area. Like, there's 21% of people speeding on this particular road. It's so dangerous. I remember the first time I drove this road, I was driving a big ute, and I went around one of the bends and I was like, whoa, and that's just like, yeah, that's an anti-camber. There's not many of them in the area. And yeah, so there's that anti-camber that you take as you're turning, and there's lots of things happening on that road. It's definitely also a thoroughfare. I remember it was referred to in a radio interview. The mayor said that was a bit of her backtrack to get to SELLICKS when we had some issues on the expressway and on the Saltfleet Street Bridge, but don't get me started. So it's a thoroughfare, and we've got those developments happening in the area. So safety, Sam would absolutely love that we're looking at this. Okay, so part two I really wanted to talk about was the linkage of the towns. We've got the Wollunga Downs residents. They're the ones that constantly bring it up. They are long-standing residents of the area who would love to access Port Wollunga on their bikes. We've got the Point Estate that was established there, and then now we've got the Onkaparinga Heights going in. So it is the linkage component is massive. It would be absolutely it would be a game changer for residents. I know that we're not looking at taking on new and significant upgrades. So again, placing this on the advocacy list, I think is really important. I'd really appreciate it if you guys could approve it tonight. And again, the report was levelled up with the identification of grants that this would possibly be suitable for. So for anyone who's interested, that was on page 200. And let me find my notes. Marion's looking at me thinking you're not going to find it in there. So I really appreciate you identifying it. 342, identifying possible grant opportunities. The Safer Local Roads Infrastructure Program is a $5 million grant, open all year round. So not just the advocacy list. I really appreciate that you're also bringing those other grant opportunities.
for the town. And then I'd like to finish my debate, just a comment from Bill Jamison, who said to me he had many comments over his 25 years on this project. And he said, if anyone questions this, put them on their push bike and see if they survive.
Okay, thank you for invoking former councillor Jamison. If he's watching, I hope you're enjoying another moment in the chamber. Councillor Platten.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to second, please.
Go ahead. Do you wish to speak to the
Yes, current councillor Platten has ridden along that road. COVID brought out some really interesting traits in us all. Buying a bicycle like everyone else was one of mine. So I used to live just up there, and it is not good to ride your bike. I thought I'd be able to ride to work and home. That didn't work. I think I did it once. And then I tried to find, I knew that there was a road through the reserve. So I tried and I hiked and I found, but it's very, very long. It's a very long road. And $8.5 million would fix that. So I was really glad to see that this is for future advocacy. I think that it is really something that that community talks about a lot. We have some amazing bike paths on the other side of Port Noarlunga. This would bring a whole range of community through and in. And if the money was there, I think it would be a splendid idea. So happy to advocate.
Thank you. Any further questions, debate? Councillor Wilkes, would you like to close debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much to the team here. And next item 9.10 is the draft open space strategic management plan. And this is definitely an item elected members have thoroughly explored. We've had 3 elected member workshops and oodles of activity. Councillor Ju.
I'd like to move it, please, and debate.
Go ahead.
We could always do what we've always done, and instead this time around, staff have gone on the balcony to look at what's working, and we've used as many inputs as possible, as the Mayor highlighted, 3 EM workshops, and a whole lot more rigor has gone into this. So we know open spaces, which is clearly articulated in the report, provide social, economic and environmental benefits, influencing the livability of our area, which directly aligns with our community vision that community have helped us develop. We need these to see these spaces as multi-purpose and reflective of our community expectations. So I credit the team for the comprehensive work that they've done, the 543 community residents who have provided input into this, and very much looking forward to this going out for engagement and seeing what we get in return.
Thank you. Councillor Fisher, are you question, debate, seconding?
I'll second the motion and everything that Lauren said as well. Significant involvement of staff and elected members in this process, and I can't wait to see what comes back from the public as well.
Thank you. Councillor THEMELIOTIS.
Yes, thank you. Just a little bit of debate. So I'm just looking at the report and sort of erring on the side of caution a little bit. I know we've had over 500 people complete a survey, and there was a strong response around sort of that quality over quantity, which is what we've got now. We've got the quantity, but we don't really have the quality. And I err on the side of caution, because when those things start to change in our community will get up in arms. There will be those conversations, and we need to explain to them what we're doing. My concern lies with some of the newer developments, because some of these newer developments, they're going to potentially have a brand new playground, and that's going to be maybe 200 metres away from your property, whereas ours is going to be stretched out further. And how do we compete with that when they're saying, well, my neighbour's got, and how do we address those things? So when this goes out, I would like maybe a couple of FAQs as well for elected members, just so we're all saying the same things. We have exactly the same information, and we're really pushing to our community what is quality? And what does quality look like? Does it look like you're getting additional play equipment? Does it look like seating? Does it look like shade? Does it look like trees? What does that look and feel like, to show our residents that we want to give you better than what you have, and travelling a little bit further is worth it.
Councillor. No, councillor.
Something else, a question.
Oh, question.
Question I noticed, if you had to put together a couple of sentences about the way you've changed things, or the way you differently do things now, could you sum it up in respect to open space?
If it was a tweet, what would it say?
That's one that you maybe don't use that one. Through the chair, where it was a tweet. This so far has been guided by community feedback, driven by your input as well, and now we're going out to test it with the community to see if it stacks up.
Well done. Councillor Bill.
Thank you, Matt. I just wanted to say, do we have provided a hard copy once it's approved, or a number of them that we could use and take out, or is that too big and we provide a summary?
It's not. So yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Davis.
I love the hierarchy. I think it's really easy to understand and comprehend and relate to people. The social research that's mentioned, it's mentioned the same language is used in both of the reports. So is that, has the social research, is it only since the 2018, or have we had new social research since then?
Through the chair, the 2018 our current open space strategic management plan did have research that led into it, but that was developed through 2015, 2016, 2017 that led into that. We've undertaken a whole raft of new research associated with this, which included the previously alluded to on-site surveys. 543 and of those 103 or thereabouts were actually on-site across our reserves throughout the city, as well as independent social research around what is play, benchmarking and those type of factors.
Thank you. Councillor THEMELIOTIS, question?
Yes, please. When we go out to community, is there going to be a little piece explaining how we got into this position, and the amalgamation of councils is like a little bit of the history, just so people know why this has been triggered?
Through the chair, include that under frequently asked questions.
No further questions. Councillor G, do you wish to close?
I just do want to highlight, I think Councillor THEMELIOTIS got me thinking as well, which I completely agree with everything she said. And it made me think about how I guess a goal would be to continue to see our community as the experts in their community, in their region, and how we don't want to lock in to tight policy like led by the PCW. We've had this conversation a few times. To an absolute degree, without recognising the wealth of knowledge that's within our communities when we're making hard choices. So I just, wanted to put that on the table as well. But again, thank you for your work. It's been tremendous. Look forward to seeing community response.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. And it's quite a big step forward for our city, and I look forward very much to hearing from our community. Item 9.11, which is the Future Living Code Amendment. And just to note that while this doesn't currently include the City of Onkaparinga, it is on our agenda tonight. Because we want to have a say in things that may impact us in the future. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Wilkes.
Yes, please. I will move as written.
Do you wish to speak to the motion?
I would say that I actually saw this and I thought it looked really interesting. So I had quite an in-depth read, and thank you.
Councillor THEMELIOTIS.
Just happy
to second. Any questions? Debate. Councillor Wilkes, wish to close? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? I just want to comment and thank the staff for being proactive, because I think it can be vigilance is critical in these times of planning and development. So I appreciate it being on our agenda. Item 9.12, which is the Greater Adelaide Regional Plan submission. Do I have a mover? Councillor Platten.
Happy to move as written.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bell. You're all so fast. Did you wish to speak to the motion? Any questions? Debate? We've also had quite a bit on this work together. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate Your support for that. 9:13, following up the proposed road closure on Old Willunga Hill. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move the motion.
Thank you. Do you speak to the motion?
Yeah, just briefly. I just wanted to highlight that I'll ask a couple of questions first, I suppose, of staff, if I may. Be happy? Yeah. Just if you could provide a summary to what led to offering both parties part of the public road and how far back this goes.
Through you, Mayor. This goes back a couple of years now. Can't remember what the actual trigger was to start with, but there are a number of encroachments, private encroachments on the public road that somehow have come to our attention. To resolve those, an operation under the Roads Opening and Closing Act is considered a permanent way of resolving this solution. The Act requires that the road is offered to adjoining surrounding residents equally. So both parties were contacted and only one pursued to the point we are of tonight. And that is the applicant is the one who has all of the encroachments over the road. The solution that we've provided to council tonight aims to resolve those encroachments, but continue to allow access to the other party to continue to access their property as they have done in the past.
Thank you. Another question, if I may. Will both parties, therefore, have access to their respective pieces of land?
Yes, through you, Mayor. Yes, they certainly will. They'll both have safe and convenient access as there is today, and the encroachments will be resolved.
And can council confirm that there have been previous encroachments that were requested to be removed?
Yes, through you, Mayor, there were a number of encroachments that have been removed. They were on the portion of land that council will be retaining as public road, and they include some trees and some other parking type obstacles.
One other question, if I may. Will the property owner of number 35 still be able to consider putting in an application to buy the public land that's left, and also to put in an application to consider a guardrail that he's been requesting should be removed to allow further access to his gate?
Yes, through you, Mayor. Certainly another application can be received separate from this matter tonight, where council can consider any further application for purchase or any alteration to the public road.
Thank you. Sorry, Mayor, one more question, if I may. Just, is there any ability for council to apply or ensure compliance, if you like, with ensuring that the property owner of number 35 can access his property through the gate?
Through you, Mayor, I suppose the signage on the gate might be appropriate in an early instance, and we would obviously attend any matter that is raised and brought to our attention if there are any further concerns.
Thank you. That's all for the questions. I just wanted to say a few words, if I may. Thank you. I just wanted to thank staff on this. I know that there's been considerable work done with both parties to try and resolve some of the issues that were raised by probably both of them, but I suspect probably more than by one than the other. And you're right, I think it does go right back. I've been advised or had a number of people highlight that since 2013, there was an issue with there was an offer to both parties to buy the land, and the I think the issue of the guardrail goes back a number of years as well. It certainly, I've spoken with the property owner of number 35, who's the objector in this report, I think he will benefit from having continued contact with us in some respects, to show some support, I suppose, and to help if required. But obviously there is a need for possibly him to consider or reconsider what's been offered to him previously. I'm hoping that we'll resolve some of the issues that are raised. It's quite complex, but this is a very small piece of public land, and essentially what's left is still accessible by the public and still accessible by both parties, which is really important, that has been highlighted in the report. Yes, I do believe he has put a sign up on his gate. I don't know what quality sign it is, or how big or small it is, but he's only actually done that recently in the last 2 months. But I just wanted to say I think this is a good suggestion, and obviously the encroachments of part of the roof of the house on the right of the road, and also some tanks and things that were there, obviously does resolve this issue, and clearly they've cooperated with other situations in removing things, which is really good. So that's all I want to say. I support the motion, and thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pritchard.
Having a second the motion.
Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just
question?
Very quickly. No, I just want to acknowledge Councillor Berry's work with the resident on this one. We've had correspondence going back for a period of time, and Councillor Berry has done an excellent job in advocating for the residents. I think the proposal provides council with a good result, because the encroachments are significant, and so removing those liabilities from the council is excellent. And I think that the result, provided we can enforce that the gateway is maintained for the resident at number 35, then this will be a good outcome.
Thank you. Councillor Greaves, question or debate?
Question, thank you.
Go ahead.
And I apologise if this has been covered already while I was off on my coughing fit. Just in terms of the portion of the unmade road reserve that actually sits in front of the access point for the neighbouring property, do we have any controls, or can we actually put in place any controls to actually prohibit people from parking across that gateway, given it's a public piece of infrastructure?
Through you, Mayor, we've recommended perhaps some signage on the gate to keep it clear at all times, and we'll certainly notify the applicant to be very conscious of, making sure that that is clear at all times for through traffic and public turnarounds, etc.
Right, thank you. And what remedies are there in place, or what actions are there in place should that suggestion not be followed through?
It will depend on a case-by-case basis as to what level of severity perhaps the situation is, and whether or not there's some executable type remedies that we need to put in place, or whether it's more discussion, a few warnings first maybe.
All right, no worries, thank you.
No further questions. Councillor Bell, would you like to close debate?
Thank you, Mayor. Just in closing, just to highlight that the objector to this change has another gate that he can access his property 800 metres down the road. So this is not the only gate he can access. Just to make that clear in case people are wondering. Thanks.
Okay, I will put the motion in. All those in favour? Against? The motion's carried. Thank you, everyone. I know that's been complex, and I appreciate all the goodwill to get to this point. Item 9.14, SELLICKS Beach Motorcycle Classic. Do I have a mover? Councillor Fisher.
Yeah, I'll move this one.
Do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, this stage.
Councillor Platten.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll second.
Do you wish to speak to the motion?
I'd be happy to speak to the motion.
Go ahead.
So I, along with other councillors, had the privilege of going to see the event held, I think it was 2 years ago, 18 months ago. And what I had in my head prior to going and what I left with were two very different pictures. I had a vision of rubbish everywhere, rowdy crowds, and a disregard for environment. And what I witnessed prior to being shown around and during being shown around was an incredibly clean site, enormous amount of effort being put into maintaining the environment, and a great deal of thought being given to when the event should be held to minimise its impacts. I think we should be thoroughly proud of events like this in our city. It attracts an enormous amount of people. It does minimal damage, if any, that I can see. And I'm very happy to second. And I thank people like Brenton for bringing events like this to our city. So thank you.
Any questions, any further debate? Councillor Fisher, just to close debate. Can you press your, thank you.
Yes, please, Mayor. Exactly what Councillor Platten has suggested. I was present with another councillor as well. It was a well-run event. I too had some reservations. I think about 18 months ago, I stood up here and talked about survey results. So it was 60% in favour of this particular event, 65% in favour. What I saw in the event was a very well progressed and thorough event. Some of the things that Brenton spoke about, one particular part was about containing the growth of it. And certainly if numbers got out of hand, which I know is not ever the plan, that might be a different kettle of fish to look at. But certainly the regard for the environment is number one in what they display down there. And I urge other councillors to support this motion.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Carried unanimously. Next item is 9.15, the motorised vehicle exclusion zone at ALDINGA. Councillor YEOMANS.
Yes, I'm happy to move 2.1 and just ask a question before.
Sorry, moving number 2.
No. Yes.
Yes. 2. If we just exclude that, just so that you can you, are you confident? Is that the one you mean?
No, the first one, sorry.
So you want to do the first one?
Yeah.
Thank you. So if we can just want to double check that's what you're wanting to move.
Yeah, the options. Yeah. Just have a question first, if I can.
Go ahead.
The purpose of this report is to respond to a council resolution of back in March, item 9.4, which sought endorsement of a draft communication engagement plan for public consultation. The resolution talked about part of the resolution determines the Aldinga Marine Park and the body of water between the Aldinga Marine Park and the Aldinga Beach foreshore is recommended to dip for the restriction of vessels. The options presented here tonight do not include the marine park. Noting the commentary within the report, just ask the staff, please explain the discussions with DIT and the marine park and the vessels, just to put that into context for us, please.
The questions, the system of the Aldinga Sanctuary Zone already has restrictions that prevents motorised water sport and fishing. Conversations, and there are following conversations with DIT. They indicated that that area would not be supported as a vessel exclusion zone for a variety of reasons. During the conversations with DIP, one of their major considerations in supporting a vessel exclusion zone is safety and hazard concerns. They like to have some data behind it and some facts and figures. In this area that was first discussed, there's been no reports of incidents in this area. And it's an area that is not easily accessible by watercraft within a, say, 200 metre no swim zone. No vehicle zone, the vessel zone. And it's not a common swimming area because of the topography of that area with that reef. I don't know if you've been there at low tide, but that reef will normally go out to 200 metres. From a navigational safety perspective with vessels, the risk of vehicle collision with any swimmer is very, very low. So therefore, they've indicated they wouldn't support a vessel exclusion zone for that first 200 metres of the century. Okay.
Thanks. Just a quick debate, if I can. Just to reinforce some words that I used back in March when we first moved this report. The City of Onkaparinga prides itself on families having the opportunity to enjoy our magnificent beaches. An exclusion zone within this area provide people a safer place to swim, snorkel and relax. Council, including elected members, do receive feedback about safety concerns associated with personal watercraft, in particular jet skis, creating hazards for swimmers at ALDINGA and surrounding beaches. I met with staff on the 18th of June where various options were discussed. Thanks for setting up that meeting, and the outcomes were presented here tonight. I accept the position of DIP as outlined by staff here tonight and can only conclude that the relevant authorities do not consider a motorcraft traversing slowly across the marine park does not create any safety issues for any swimmers who may be in that area or any unnecessary environmental concerns to marine life. The public consultation has been well timed to capture the summer months, and I ask you to join me in supporting these options are presented to the public for their views. Thank you.
Councillor June.
Thank you, staff, for putting this together, and thank you for Councillor YEOMANS for continuing to advocate and work with the community on this. As Councillor YEOMANS has highlighted,
Seconding or
I'm definitely seconding. Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
The section that Councillor YEOMANS has highlighted definitely is an area that a lot of community frequent, families frequent. So I think it would be great to go out to community engagement over summer to hear what the community have to say.
Thank you. Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor. Question without notice. In respect to your experience, can you identify any other council area in South Australia which has allowed or put up an exclusion zone other than the marine park environment? And the second part of the question, who would police it?
My question on council officials through the chair. I'll take your question on those, but just off the top of my head, I know that there is a exclusion zone down at West Beach. I'll have to get them to find out who actually proposed that. I believe the council initiated that proposal, but I'll take that question on notice and confirm.
Councillor Wilkes.
Councillor Fisher, I want to let you know that I will also take that question with me as a very strong advocate for the coast. I'm actually the chair of the ACCN, which is the Adelaide Coastal Council Network. And we represent the 7 local coastal metro councils, and we are very, very interested to hear the feedback from this report. And I will definitely take that to our next meeting. I'll also ask our executive officer. So thank you.
Great teamwork there. Councillor Bell.
Just a comment, if I may. I just wanted to say that having been down the Goonoo a number of times in my life, there is not an exclusion zone down there, but an area designated for just jet skis that you might want to look at as well.
Thank you, everyone. In no further questions, Councillor YEOMANS, do you wish to close debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Okay, we're now up to 9:16. I'm not sure if there's yes, Councillor THEMELIOTIS.
Yes, I would like to lodge my general conflict of interest. My employer is named in this report. I have no financial benefit or detriment from this report. I will remain in the chamber and debate and vote.
Thank you. And just a little correction too on page 596. We have actually met with the member from Mayo as well. So just which members will know because I report back to them when I meet. Do we have a move for this motion? Oh, are you an update as well? Apologies. I'll just let the officer update. Thanks, Ines.
Through the chair, just a minor update. On page 610 of the agenda, the NARC item, the cost for the urgent priority works should read 10.8 million. And on page 597, which is the financial section of the report, there's a few words that I need to add, which I'll supply to you as well, Karen, which is that for financial commitments made to projects that are not in Council's advocacy plan, those that were 100% funded would be brought back to the chamber for consideration on a case-by-case basis, and the report would take into consideration council service levels, ongoing maintenance and renewal costs, along with the benefits it may bring to the community.
Thank you. Thanks very much for those updates. Councillor Eaton.
Yes, I'll move as written. I think it's probably one of our most important documents, and at least it is going to give us the opportunity to get that message out to those people that are either in Parliament or going to be running for Parliament at some stage in the future. So it's very important that we get that out, and the sooner we can do that, the better. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkes.
Yes, I'm happy to second, but I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
When is the next iteration of this coming back?
Iteration.
Iteration.
It's anticipated to be probably a few months ahead of the state election, when there's, time to look at what the policy announcements have been.
So a couple of things I can add to that is that we've got one local MP meeting left to go, which is this week. And then that completes the first round of conversations with each individual current elected member. And then there'll be ongoing work that we will all be doing all the time. And this becomes a document and it's available in the public domain, so we can all use it however we wish to, not with full confidence that you have the support of all your peers in this chamber. And I'd encourage you to do that. Then in terms of a final document, there will still be some back and forth over time, because they will take advantage of, as you heard from our officer, the political contest that happens through policy debate. And also we don't yet know who some of those candidates are, of course, because we are too far out from that timeline. So there's a lot of activity that we can do. I think you can be confident that this next iteration that you'll be passing tonight is just tidying up what we've got, and it will be a document that will stand until we need to update it, which probably will be in the next 6 months or so. But it doesn't mean that it's not a living document, and we're choosing. When we last had a look at it as a draft, and we said it was an iterative process, so that we will keep doing that. And as information comes by, we can keep updating it. So I don't feel it has to have a firm date. We can keep doing it as a living document, because as we need to, as things start to change.
Okay, perfect. That leads me nicely into my next question, which is on page 617, we've got the River Road Port Noarlunga dual pathway, which we just debated and approved. When will that be updated? So it's because the cost of it, when will the project reflect what we passed tonight?
Through the chair, there's an item already in the advocacy plan, which is a more general one that refers to the Onkaparinga National Park. And so that was related to the mountain bike lodge. So what we can do is adjust the wording in that to also reflect what's in this report.
On 617, there's a River Road Port Noarlunga. We asked the state government to fund delivery of a bike track and footpath upgrade from New Road to Perry's Bend Car Park, Port Noarlunga. And it's 4.2 million based on previous work scoped. So we've got a lot we've got new wording and we've got more information, we've got stages. I was more looking for that sort of.
Yeah, I can't see any reason why. As I said, this is a living document, and as we keep moving forward, we can keep updating it.
Thank you.
Did you wish to debate? No, thank you. Okay. Any questions? I'll put the sorry, Councillor Eaton, do you wish to close debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thanks, everyone. And please remember that this is living. So if there's things that start to come in, we will do it. I'm just going to ask if we've got 3 more items here for this part of the meeting. Do I have your permission to continue and then we can go in and have a break after that? Councillor Fisher?
I'll move that way.
Thank you. Councillor Platten?
Happy to second it.
All those in favour?
Oh, this was what we said.
Against? All right, we'll keep going and then we'll have a break. 9:17, the general purpose financial statements. Is there an update on this one?
So much.
No. Okay. Councillor Pritchard.
A couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Apologies, Jade. I didn't get these questions in. Just the financial assistance grant money, which was $8.438 million, which was received after the 2023-24 financial year. Did we know that number was only 8.438 prior to it being received?
So through the mayor, we weren't aware of the amount that we would receive. Historically, we have received 50% of our next year's allocation before the end of the financial year, but that has changed in recent years. So one year we got 75%, another year we got 100%, this year we got 85%.
Okay. So my question is, how did we ultimately go against the original budget of 23-24 if we had received the number that we thought we were going to get? How close did we get to achieving what we had set out to in 23-24?
So through the mayor, if we had received the amount that we had budgeted for in 23-24 relating to the financial assistance grant, we would have been, I think it was around $6.5 million better off in our financial position at year end.
I'm happy to move as written.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Fisher?
Thanks, Mayor. I'll second it. This is the budget.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Fisher, Pritchard, or Councillor Yeomans, go ahead.
Just a quick couple of comments there where the report mentions that the ARC was presented with the report.
So there's a questions or debate?
Probably debate.
Okay, go ahead.
Just drawing the members' attention to the fact that the report was presented to the Audit and Risk Committee, just reading from the minutes, just a couple of things here that I mentioned that the final 23-24 financial statements presented an operating deficit of the $10.7 million, which is an improvement of $1.653 million compared to the draft end of year result presented as part of the quarterly finance report in September. This is primarily resulted from the inclusion of our share of Swara's net operating position, equating to $1.411 million additional income being recognised non-cash. Another part of advice was that the final year-end position, the result, does not present any new increased long-term financial sustainability risk, noting that the deterioration in the operating results towards the end of the year had a non-cash impact. And finally, that the council's auditors be advised that the Audit and Risk Committee has reviewed the draft 23-24 financial statements and is satisfied that they present fairly the state of the council's affairs for the year ending 30 June 24. And that's corroborated by the independent assurance report that's also provided in the reports there, where they were the independent auditors they found that the financial transactions of the council have been conducted properly in accordance with legislative provisions for the period last financial year. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Pritchard, you wish to close? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. And a couple of comments I'd just like to make, and that is that I think the role of the Audit and Risk Committee this year has been strengthened and has contributed to our decision-making processes. So if Councillor Yeomans and Councillor Pritchard can pass on our thanks to the independent members, and also thank you for your service on that. And to all the team behind the scenes, thank you, Jade, and to David as well. It makes it easy for us. Now we move into this year's, our first Q1 review. Do I have a mover? Councillor Fisher. Thank you. Councillor Pritchard.
Have a second with the question.
Go ahead.
So just in relation to the financial assistance grant money again, we're obviously showing a far greater surplus year to date and end of year forecast, thankfully due to that financial assistance grant timing. Is it fair to say that the position is, I guess, on track without that money, or are we better off than we should be? Hang on, that's not right. The financial assistance grant or the federal assistance grant. Does that make sense, Jen?
Yeah.
Some of the impact of the timing and the proportion of the payment of the financial assistance grants has made budgeting quite difficult. Knowing that we are definitely going to get 100% of our 24-25 allocation has improved our operating position by $3 million compared to what we had budgeted for. Excluding that, the other variances, including renewal income and the amortisation write-off, without those adjustments, we would be on track to what we had originally budgeted for.
Councillor Pritchard.
Just a follow-up question, just around the interest rate. Is there any indications that interest rates are going to change for this year's financial impact?
Through the mail, we are certainly looking at fixing some interest, some loans. Some of the forecasts and quotes that we're receiving from our financial lender are indicating a more favourable interest rate, and we're just making a decision around the period that we want to lock those in, knowing the economic forecast that interest rates will continue to decrease at some point in time.
No further questions. Councillor Fisher, you wish to close?
Yes, thank you. Just to bring attention again, this is in the approved budget.
Thank you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thanks, everyone. Good work. 19, which is our committee schedule for the year. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Wilkes. And Councillor THEMELIOTIS. Are you seconding it? Well, pushing on and off. Councillor THEMELIOTIS, are you seconding it? Okay. Councillor Wilkes, did you wish to speak? All those in favour? Against? Carried. I'm now going to push my luck and test the chamber and see if you are willing to keep going or whether you want a 10-minute break. Can I have a bit of a feel? A 5-minute break? Councillor Platten, what are you offering up?
I mean, personally, keep going. Just trudge on through. But if you need a 5-minute break to get a drink, I mean, you can leave the chamber whenever you want.
Councillor Fisher, you've got a motion. Can I have a motion?
I'll second that sort of motion.
All those in favour? Against? Thank you. Let's keep going. These are my own KPIs that I need to attend to. We have a huge number of questions on notice. They are on your agendas or will be in the minutes. And thank you to staff for being responsive to that. We are now into the motions on notice. And our first is Councillor Yeomans. Thank you. If someone would like to. Thank you very much. Councillor Yeomans, go ahead.
I'd like to move the amended version if I can.
Yes, and do we have that in front of us?
Yep.
Yes, that is the one. Can you just want to double check that's the one you're expecting to see?
Yeah, I think it's the one the Director of Operations is happy with. So it's
the Director of Operations.
No, I was going to say he's happy.
No, just checking that, can you make eye contact to confirm? Off you go, Councillor Yeoman.
Thank you for that. This is obviously a follow-up from the deputation from Mr. Richard Forbes that we heard earlier this evening. And just some background to the motion. The committee of the Willunga branch of the National Trust of South Australia. The committee acknowledges the historical significance of Port Willunga and of the role it played in supporting the growth and prosperity of towns, communities and businesses across the region. Port Willunga was one of the earliest operating ports in South Australia, dating back to 1841, and was the busiest regional port in South Australia in the 1850s and 1860s. The committee believes due recognition of its historical significance should be given at this time by the City of Onkaparinga, as Port Willunga celebrates its 175th anniversary in 2025. To that end, the Port Willunga Heritage Subcommittee of the Willunga branch of the National Trust of South Australia is seeking recognition from the City of Onkaparinga that Port Willunga be acknowledged as a port and area of historical significance, and that Council meet with interested parties, including representatives from the Port Willunga Heritage Subcommittee, to discuss opportunities to provide, within existing budgets, work and signage to celebrate the 175th anniversary of Port Willunga in 2025. It's fair to say that heritage is a key component of what visitors seek, a unique and authentic experience, and what enriches and makes their visit to South Australia, and in this instance, the City of Onkaparinga and Port Willunga, special and memorable, not to mention the economic potential. These initiatives will only enhance the communities and tourist experience that already includes Route 21 destination and the Port Willunga North Coast Park Trail from Masman Beach to Port Willunga. So those are the recommendations there. I'm just asking for your support to acknowledge. I won't read them all out. You can see them there, but clearly the main one there is acknowledging the Port Willunga as a port, an area of historic significance. And then encouraging your support the meeting with staff and representatives from that particular committee, another relevant party, to discuss those opportunities that with staff that we can meet within our existing budgets. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Fisher.
Thank you. I'll second the motion, and I want to speak to it as well. I think it's a really good idea that we acknowledge historical locations within the City of Onkaparinga, those especially from European settlement. I think I've got a question. So a question without notice again. Has the council looked at a policy in respect to acknowledging historical places within the City of Onkaparinga? So I'll give you some examples. The oldest part of the City of Onkaparinga is the Coromandel Valley area. And there's a list, if you go back, that sort of lists those things. So we're talking nearly 200 years with European settlement in this particular city. So my question is about the policy.
A question around our heritage policy or European settlement. It might be I'll just see what's happening over there. Yes. Thank you.
Through the mayor, there is significant acknowledgement of our historic European heritage through the planning system. And in fact, next month is the local heritage code amendment that's coming up for further engagement with the community, which will address quite a number of those issues. My understanding is there have been projects many years ago prior to my time about historic or heritage walking trails and the like. I don't know what the current thinking is around that, to be honest. That would be taken on notice.
Councillor Jew. Question or debate?
Just debate, thank you.
Go ahead.
I absolutely support this motion and thank Councillor Yeomans for continuing to work with Richard through the process for last year. We both met with him at Star of Greece and he provided a presentation, exactly what we heard tonight, and it was quite interesting to know that it was one of the busiest ports in the middle 1800s. With that in mind, I feel like education is really important, particularly to build a sense of belonging and connection to our local community. So the more signage, the better. Also recognising Councillor Yeoman's point when the deputation was carried out, that there's a whole lot of stakeholder groups that are quite passionate about Port Wollonga, and so how we engage them throughout this process and ensure that the information provided on the signs are a common understanding across different groups would be fabulous, so everyone can be proud of the final result. And I also actually look forward to thinking of a way that could be acknowledged or celebrated the 175th year and how the community might consider doing that.
Thank you. Councillor Pritchard. Question or debate?
Debate, I think. I absolutely support this as the council liaison to the Willunga National Trust. The Willunga National Trust has done a number of items around recognising Port Wollonga in terms of there's been an art display at Waverley House not that long ago, which was entitled Coast. There's also been the Wreck of the Tigress, which was at Seaford, not Port Wollonga, but they have preserved a lot of the artefacts for that, which are on display. So I think certainly the Willunga National Trust is very active, and so for them to support this Port Wollonga subgroup, it'd be fantastic for this to occur.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkes.
Thank you.
Question or debate?
I just have a really quick question. What is the meaning for us to acknowledge a town as a port or an area of significance?
Through the Mayor, I myself don't have any understanding of that, and in fact I do have questions around what that actually means. It's the National Trust asking for us to acknowledge it as a port. Is that an application process? Are there criteria around that? I've not seen any background information to advise what that process is. Is it literally just a resolution of council? So I'm afraid I can't provide any more advice other than that would probably need to be taken on notice. I haven't seen any documentation as to what that actually means.
Okay. What about the area of significant historic significance?
Is there
do we have another one? Do we have an example in
anywhere else?
Council Research. Through the Chair, the Township of Port Wollonga in the Planning and Design Code is in the Township Neighbourhood Zone, but it has a historic overlay over it. So it already has significant protections from a local and state heritage perspective. So it is already identified as an historic township from a planning perspective.
And I might just comment that I think the way I'm hearing this is that it's just acknowledging that's the first step, and that it's not asking for a planning decision or anything else at this stage. Did you wish to speak? Yeah, go ahead.
I just apologise firstly for not putting those questions in previously, and yeah, definitely support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Yeomans, would you like to close debate? I'll put the motion, but if we just look at the motion really tonight, if we say that we're acknowledging it as a port in an area of historical significance, that's what we're acknowledging that. It's not in any other way making anything planning otherwise, it's just an acknowledgement. So just being clear that that's what we're doing this evening. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? The motion's carried. Thanks, everyone. Councillor Yeomans, you're busy again here with dust in SELLICKS speech.
Yes, can I just move that one? That's right. Yep. Yep. Okay, just some background on this one. If I just take up the 4 minutes, yes. I'll take that. The Adbury Quarry operates from SELLICKS Hill. Residents at SELLICKS Beach have for many years been complaining about the amount of dust that is emitted by the quarry and is breathed in daily by the residents. Residents are concerned this dust is not only a nuisance but also a health risk. The inconvenient factor associated with fugitive dust from the quarry, although disappointing with dust in and outside of their houses, on cars, on outdoor plants and solar panels, and outdoor furniture and barbecues, is not the major issue here. The major concern is the potential health risk to the community. Many letters have been written to various ministers by the SELLICKS Beach Dust Action Group on behalf of the residents of SELLICKS Beach and SELLICKS Hill community, concerned about the dust that is emitted by the Agri Quarry at SELLICKS Hill. In recent time, the quarry has appointed an independent facilitator to facilitate a community consultation group consisting of management of the Agri Quarry and SELLICKS Beach residents. I'm also on this committee to represent the community. Despite this action, the dust continues to impact on the lives of the residents at SELLICKS Beach. Dust has been collected by residents from in and around their houses and analysed by reputable laboratories. I also understand some dust was also collected by residents from the public road leading into the quarry. These dust and silica tests have shown some of this dust does contain fine particles that can be breathed in without knowing it. I'm no medical expert, like the councillor sitting alongside of me, but I understand exposure to silica dust can lead to the development of lung cancer, silicosis, which is an irreversible scarring and stiffening of the lungs, kidney disease, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. I'm also informed that in the SELLICKS Beach community, there are a number of residents with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. This is an ongoing lung condition caused by damage to the lungs. Symptoms include trouble breathing, a daily cough that brings up mucus and a tight whistling sound in the lungs through wheezing. This is most often caused by long-term exposure to irritating smoke, fumes, dust, or chemicals. In summary, the residents of SELLICKS Beach want to know that the air they are breathing is safe. Therefore, I ask you to support this motion, where the council is approving the mayor to write a letter to the Chief Public Health Officer of South Australia, Professor Nicholas Spurrier, seeking confirmation that dust that is emitted from the Agri Quarry is safe to breathe, and that the letter is copied into those following listeners you can see there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Platten, you seconding a question?
More than happy to second it. I love a mayoral letter, and I think that this is very important, and certainly very important for the residents that live in fear of carcinogenic fugitive sand. So I fully support it.
Thank you. Councillor Dew, question or debate?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Platten, for seconding my fellow councillor. No, absolutely, this is actually a very serious matter, and I do absolutely wholeheartedly support this. Councillor Yeomans and I receive emails probably daily from the Dust Action Group, and that's been consistent for at least the last 12 months. This is a continuing issue that I know council staff have continued to provide us with advice around, and are also playing a role in supporting outcomes for the community, and this is just yet another step. So thank you, Councillor Yeomans, and also to the SELLICKS community for their ongoing advocacy and highlighting this continuing issue, and we hope to be able to remedy this at some point, hopefully sooner than later.
Thank you. Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor, for the motion. Can I just get on record what the response was from government through a question to staff?
Previous government or previous correspondence. So we did write to the Minister for the Environment, I believe, and I believe through the EPA as well. But I'll just double check my memory bank there.
Through the Mayor, we have written a number of letters to different agencies, and the latest is that the Housing Infrastructure Development Unit is doing air quality studies at certain sites. The testing stations are in place and testing now, and that's going to run for the next 6 months. We had asked, the last letter we wrote asked for them to expand that area. They have declined that, but have I think 3 stations up and running at the moment.
Thank you. That was your question. Councillor Bell.
That's me. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for answering the question I was going to ask, because I could only find a quality air quality report done in 2017. So that's great to hear that something is happening. I support the motion, obviously, and yes, it's a serious issue, silicosis, absolutely, and respiratory disease. I think it's really important that we remain vigilant. Yeah, and clearly EPA and health departments are obviously doing something, and it's obvious that even going on the website for SELLICKS Hill, they're doing quite a bit. There's a lot of information on the Lung Foundation, and not specifically about quarries, but it's really focusing on the workers rather than the community that might be living around it in terms of some of the stuff that I've read so far. But I think it is important that we remain vigilant, because after all, it is our role to continue to advocate for the community. And of course, we also have a responsibility under the Onkaparinga Regional Public Health Plan that highlights that we should be protecting and preventing and progressing health in our communities. In terms of silicosis, there's a lot that we still don't know about silicosis. It's still unknown about the numbers that are increasing. There's some suggestion that, for example, that there's been an increase in some areas because of housing boom and demand for artificial stone bathrooms and laundry bench tops, etc. So it is something we really need to be vigilant, as I mentioned, and I think in a time of growing loss of confidence in governments, it's good to get some further reassurance and build confidence in the community that we're keeping, just looking out for them. Thank you.
Thank you. And further questions, Councillor YEOMANS, would you like to close debate?
Just a couple of points, and thank you for all that support. Just also a bit of information that the quarry's been there for a long time. It's going to be there for at least another 100 years. There's plenty of product in the ground that we're getting out. So certainly acknowledge the quarry's not going anywhere. But also acknowledge that the residents are also going into bat, the current residents are also going into bat for potential new residents, as well as they're mindful that there are a lot of new housing developments on the drawing board. So they're sort of trying to get that sort of resolution so they can find out exactly what's going on well before those new developments take place, in fairness to the new residents who might be living there. And Councillor Bell also mentioned quickly about the confidence in government departments, and I think it's fair to say in relation to this motion here that the residents want to hear from health practitioners themselves that this area is safe, that they're breathing. So that's why we've gone down this. That's why I've gone down this path. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. And yes, as a resident in Select Speech, I appreciate that as well. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll read the motion as written and just speak to it, if I may, please.
Go ahead.
This motion came about really after I met Anna Reynolds, Lord Mayor of Hobart, at the NGA in July. Moira, our mayor, and I met with her, and also we participated in some climate side discussions at the conference, where there was obvious discussions about what councils could share about what they've done in advancing improvements and action on climate change. And essentially, Lord Mayor Anna Reynolds, it was inviting Moira, our mayor, to participate in the Climate Mayor's Initiative in Australia. So this is something new that Anna Reynolds, Lord Mayor of Hobart, has initiated. It's obvious what our council's already done is extensive in advocacy, and if you saw the attachments from my questions I noticed from last council meeting, it highlighted all of those in terms of deepening engagement and leadership and building partnerships, for example, and working with and putting up motions for to the LGA, etc. But this particular motion is about the climate mayors initiative, and there's a statement of support that was provided to you. And essentially, it proposes to support and coordinate an active network of mayors around Australia who demonstrate climate leadership. This network of mayors will build political support in Australia in our communities for more ambitious action on climate change. Mayors and the local councils they lead have been leading, of course, the way on climate action for some years. In particular, our council is leading the way, and this is another way that we can showcase what our council has been doing. Thank you.
Councillor Davis.
Happy to second, excited where it might lead.
Thank you. Any questions? Debate, can I ask you to, thank you. Councillor Bell, do you wish to close? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your support. Thank you, Councillor Bell, bringing it to the chamber. We'll now move into confidence. Any urgent business? No? Thank you. Councillor Fisher, you're moving into confidence?
Move that one.
And Councillor Platten?
More than happy to second that.
And all those in favour? Thank you. If I can just ask the room to be cleared.